Good morning. I'm Bonnie Roberts, and this is the Self-Talk Sherpa Show. Today we're going to be talking about vampires, specifically the vampire archetype, and the particular flavor of power that this represents. So, the vampire archetype is really, really popular in our culture right now. I don't know if you've read the Twilight series. I would not recommend it. But shows like True Blood, I haven't seen it, just heard of it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all these shows are making vampires appear to be romantic figures and desirable and exciting and passionate. When back 100 years ago, and back when the book Dracula was written, vampires were portrayed as evil and dark and menacing and bad. But today they're seen as sympathetic kinds of characters, and it's romanticized. And I think it shows something going on in our culture, in the psyche, in the collective psyche of our culture, that we are holding this kind of behavior of taking another person's life force from them, that we're holding this up as a romantic and desirable kind of interaction. And it's so problematic, because this kind of relationship starts in ourselves, and then it goes out into our interpersonal relationships and goes out from there into our whole consciousness in our society, right? Good morning, Lynn. And it really is something we need to look at. We need to look at it. If we see it happening in our society, we get to look at it in our relationships. If we see it there, we get to look at it in ourselves, right? So if you look at the story of Twilight, and if you don't know the story, it's pretty basic. You know, regular girl falls in love with vampire guy who's so exciting, and blah blah blah. Anyway, that's about the entire plot. But the thing that struck me the most when I read these books and watched these movies is how Bella has no sense of identity in herself, right? And when you look at vampire interactions, it's easy to blame. It's kind of like a narcissist and echo situation. It's easy to blame the overt behavior of the narcissist or the vampire, because it's so obvious that they're sinking their teeth into that person and sucking their life force, right? It's so easy to blame them, but we don't often look at the person who is being attacked and what responsibility do they have. Now, I'm not victim blaming here. I'm simply stating that only certain kinds of people become victims of this behavior. I do not have energy vampires that attach to me, because I have a strong sense of myself. I have strong boundaries. I don't stand to be treated certain ways. And I can only have strong boundaries because I know who I am. I know what I deserve. I know that I'm worthy. And I decide who gets to be in my space. I decide who has access to me. Someone with a less strong sense of identity and a less strong fifth chakra will, right? So it's our fifth chakra right here. Why does the vampire bite the neck? It's because it's attacking the fifth chakra. That's the will center, right? It's literally taking away the person's will. Now, can you take away somebody's will? No, you have to. If your will is left vulnerable and defenseless, then it's vulnerable to be attacked, okay? Not saying that you deserve to be attacked because you've left yourself vulnerable. It's just what happens when there's a vulnerability, right? It is left open for someone to come in there and steal that luscious life force from you, right? So in Twilight, we have Bella, who has zero sense of personal identity and her will, and she doesn't really have any sort of sense of will at all. She is such a flat, uninteresting, bland, boring character. And I used to criticize the author of Twilight for that, but I think it's actually deliberate, because these are the kinds of people who set themselves up to be in these kinds of situations, okay? And to avoid becoming a victim of an energy vampire, you need to figure out who you are and intentionally set the vibration that people don't get to steal from you, that they don't get to victimize you, that you are so strong in who you are that you're not going to stand for that, okay? And people who go around attacking others will not attack a strong person, right? Like in Star Wars, the Force doesn't work on the weak-minded. They will not attack a strong person because they don't have enough life force in themselves for a full-blown attack. So they will choose a vulnerable, weak person without boundaries, because that person is easy to latch onto and take their life force, okay? So why are there so many people walking around out there in so much darkness that they have this compelling need to go out and take the life force from somebody else? Oh, I missed a comment. Lynn said, the throat chakra is the will chakra. I didn't know that. That's really interesting. Yeah, I learned that from Carolyn Mace, actually. Now, you could see the will also being in the third chakra. There's some amount of will in your solar plexus center as well. But when the energy comes up into the throat chakra, your will is manifest through your voice. And so that's when your will is really manifested there, right? And you've also got the fourth heart center chakra, and that's where we generate that life force, that blood that is taken by the vampire in the fifth chakra. Okay, I feel like I didn't explain that very well. What was I just saying? Oh yeah, so there's all these people walking around with so much darkness that they have this need to take someone else's life force. Oh, before I talk about that, so why is the vampire turned into a romantic figure in popular culture? I think it's because we're built to share our energy with other people. We really want to give of ourselves and share our life force, but we want to share it in a relationship where there is a give and receive cycle, right? Where we're not just giving and giving and giving and never receiving, because that is the downward spiral toward death, right? If we're always giving our life force and never getting anything back, eventually that relationship will kill us if we stay in it long enough, okay? So our spirit rebels against that kind of relationship by giving us all these negative feelings to get us to separate from that person, right? And so, I think it's more of a doer-taker dynamic rather than, I'll have to make a video about the doer-taker versus the giver-receiver. It's a really interesting topic, but there's not time for that right now. Anyway, our spirits want a relationship where we can give and share of ourselves, but we can also receive back what we need. So it creates a beautiful upward spiral where we're constantly giving and sharing at the same time as constantly receiving and enjoying someone else's beautiful life force. So that is the goal, to have that kind of a relationship. And the vampire relationship is all about the taking, but not giving anything back, right? So, but because part of that is there where we're giving something to someone that we love of ourselves. It is very, it is appealing because we all want to do that. We all want to be a source of light in the world. We all want to be a gift. We all want to share who we are. And when we see that our light is sustaining someone else, in a way that makes us feel powerful, that makes us feel good, that we are giving this gift, so to speak, so to sustain someone else. But it's warped and it's twisted and it's one-sided. Now, if you think of a mother gives so much of her life force for her child. But it doesn't deplete her because of her purpose, because she has this purpose to be a mother and it's inside of her. And so as she's giving all of this life force to her child, she's getting back this sense of purpose and meaning and joy and love, and it refills that empty place, that place that keeps getting depleted by the child's energy needs, right? Same in a constructive relationship. We can give and give and give so much of ourselves, but because of what we're creating with the relationship, it gives us this sense of meaning and purpose that comes back up and it fills our tank. Okay, so if we don't have that sense of meaning and purpose to fill us back up, then all it does is take and take and take until it drains our energy so much that we get all sorts of diseases and zero energy. Okay, so why are there so many vampires out there that cannot get life force for themselves? Because we all have a connection with Source. And we have a direct connection with God or whatever higher power you believe in. And we can access all the life force we need from our connection with Source. But people have disconnected themselves. They've cut off their crown chakra and disconnected themselves so they do not have access, direct access to life force energy from Source. So they have to go parallel because they're not able to go here anymore because they've cut themselves off. So they have to go parallel with another person, and we're connected with another person at the level of the heart. That's the chakra where we're connected with other people, and we have to go and attack their fifth chakra will center, like the vampire biting into someone's neck, because we all have this instinctual desire for life, right? And if our life force is depleted, we don't have a choice. We have to go and get it from somebody else because it's so in us to stay alive. And we may not want to be stealing this life force from someone else, but when we don't know how to get it, that's the only thing we know to do. And so the energy vampires are attracted to people who have a lot of light, but low defenses, right? Huge light, small defenses, because those ones are easy to get their teeth into, right? So I believe that the way we cut ourselves off from Source is by betraying ourselves. So every time we make a choice that betrays our knowledge of who we are, we've broken off a piece of our spirit and we've put it over here. So every time we break an agreement with someone, we've fractured off a little piece of our soul and of our life force, whatever you call it. And we've put it over here and over here and over here. And so people are walking around so fractured in the world because they've betrayed themselves over and over and over and over again that they have so little sense of self. And it's your sense of self that connects you to your source, right? And so if you don't have that, then you're just this broken piece of glass scattered all over here. And you can't contain, you're this broken jar, and you can't contain this life force that Source is constantly pouring down into your vessel, right? And if it's broken, the life force is still coming, but it's spilling everywhere and draining into the ground, right? And so we try to go to someone else's jar and sip from their container. But if they don't have a good lid on their jar, then anyone can come and pollute their container and drink it and tip it over, right? At any time. So we need to have that really strong lid on there so that we choose who we pour out our life force to, so that it's our choice and that it's not people coming in there and siphoning it. They're not getting that siphon in there and stealing it, right? And so it has to be our choice. For the fifth center will chakra is all about choice. And if it's not your choice, then it's going to deplete you. Because you're never going to pour out your jar so much that all of your life force is gone. You will always retain what you need for yourself, but you might pour it out almost all the way because you know that you can get more just by connecting with source immediately. Let's talk, I'll put in the comments, do any of you have experiences with energy vampires in your life that have latched onto you and taken your life force? Have you ever been that yourself? Now that's probably not something you're going to want to put in the comments unless you're really brave. To take responsibility that you've done that is really brave and honest. And this is something that when I was in a dark place, I would do that with my family members. I would be a vampire to their energy and their light. My children, my husband, and if you've done that, you just get to take responsibility and see where the lack is, why you felt the need to do that. Reestablish your own sense of identity and connection with source, and you will stop that behavior. Hey, Matthew. Matthew says, for a super cool example of a person obtaining all their life force directly from source, not eating, drinking, anything. Ooh, yeah. I think you're going to talk about Autobiography of a Yogi. See the... I can't tell what this is. The girl Bala, the woman yogi who never eats. Oh yeah, Yogananda, yeah. Interesting. And yeah, for sure, I've been a vampire in my most toxic moments. Yeah, and sometimes you have a relationship of two vampires, or else one vampire and one super pathetic person who's just letting their life force be sucked away because it gives them a sense of purpose to be providing for that person. But you are not doing someone a favor when you allow them to take your life force, because you cannot create with someone else's energy. All you can do is live off of it for a while before you need another blood transfusion, right? And so if you're giving someone a transfusion of your energy, they're not going to use it for anything good because they can't. You can only create something good through your own energy and connection with source, not from somebody else's. It might sustain you for a little while. It's like the, I didn't want to talk about this. It's like the elites and using the blood of children to regain their youth. It's too dark and horrible to talk about, but I feel like it's so important. Everyone needs to be aware of it. So do your own research. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Okay, Lynn says, I think I've probably been an energy vampire, at least to a degree, in an unknowing and unintentional way, when my own sense of identity has been weak. Yes, I've had some in my life, and more recently, I've had people who have attempted to be vampires to me. And so, Lynn, how do you handle that when people attempt to be, I like how you said attempted, because that means you're conscious enough to not allow that. Oh, and I mentioned complainers in the description. Before that, if anyone wants a card draw, just volunteer in the comments, say card draw, and let me know if you want archetype card or interactive card. Oh, I should have pulled out the vampire archetype card out of here, but I didn't think to do that. I'll just look it up in my handy little booklet here. So the vampire mythically returns every evening to his source of life until there is no more to be had. Wow. It's symbolic of the power dynamics that frequently drive male-female relationships, in which the male drains the power of the female for his own psychic survival, and the female submits, or vice versa. So it's not just the male that's the vampire. Traditionally, that's how it's been in myth, but it could be the female too. The shadow vampire forms psychic attachment to others out of a desire for approval and maintenance. Now, you may think that all vampire archetypes is a shadow, but the vampire actually teaches you how to protect your own energy. Because if this is going on outside of you, then this is happening inside of you first. And so it shows you where to look for what's happening inside of you so that you can remedy that. So you will know if you have the vampire archetype, if you have a lifelong pattern of behavior such as chronic complaining, I was just going to talk about complaining, over-dependency, and holding on to relationships psychically long after they've ended. Holding on to relationships psychically long after they've ended. Ooh, I'm guilty of that one. Okay, Lynn says, I identify my boundaries and kindly but firmly share them with the person seeking to latch on. Kindly but firmly. I love that. Would a female vampire be identified as a succubus? Yes. Incubus is this vampiric type of dark male spirit that's very seductive, and the succubus is the female counterpart to that. Incubus is a great band, even though they're named after something so dark. Okay. So before I talk about complainers, is there anyone who wants a card draw? Last chance. We only have a couple minutes, so it would just be one real quick. So complainers are vampires because they're putting all of this negativity out there so that they can get something from the person they're complaining to. Now, if they complain to someone and the person does not respond at all, are they going to keep complaining to that person? Probably not, because they're not getting anything in return for that behavior. So usually when people complain, they get a blood transfusion from the person who's listening to that person tries to give them some of their optimism and hope. Oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna get better. Oh man, that's really hard. I can't believe you have to deal with that. They're giving them something light in return for the complaining. And so, so the person is rewarded for this complaining behavior, but then it brings the other person down, right? It brings them down into a negative vibration. Unless that person is strong enough to say, you know what? Let's talk about something else. Like what are you building? What are you creating in your life? What are you excited about? Unless the person stops that behavior, it's just going to be an energy drain, and it's not going to be good for either of them. And so if you've got chronic complainers in your life, you get to teach them how to talk to you, and you get to respond in a way that doesn't reinforce or feed the behavior, but you get to pivot and, as Lynn said, kindly but firmly show them that you are not going to be the source of their transfusion of light to help them survive one more day. I have a relative that always comes up and says, let me tell you about my next health problem. Let me tell you what happened to me. Can you believe this? And she just gives this long tirade of all this horrible health problems she's experiencing. And so it doesn't serve her when I just allow her to go on and on and on. It would serve her if I was able to bring more light and inspiration to her by changing the subject to something more inspiring. Okay, Lynn, I don't think anyone else wants one, so I will pull one for you super fast. I know you've had several cards, and I love that you love these cards. It's fun for me to do these for people who really enjoy them. Okay, how many shuffles do you want? I've already done one. Wouldn't it be funny if we pulled the vampire card? Last night, I went to the John Mayer concert. That was 2. And I was so excited because I pegged his archetype as the everyman, and it was like so obvious. Everything about him is the everyman. All of his song themes, the way he dresses, his fonts and his pictures and his marketing and everything about, and the way he talked to the crowd, and like just the silly things he talked about, like the water bottles being filled too close to the top, and it was so funny to me to like see it so clearly. And then the guy that opened for him, JP Sachs, he was such an artist archetype. Like he had these swirling colors in his background. His font was the artist. His jacket had like these gaudy flowers all over them, and he had this curly hair and just his whole demeanor. And it's just so fun for me to be able to identify people's archetype like this. Okay. You got the Judge. Has this one come up for you before, Lynn? This is one of my top 12. So the light attributes of the Judge are maintaining balance and compassion and managing the fair distribution of power. So I used to think this part of me was bad. It's like, I'm so judgmental. But since then, I've claimed that this is my gift of discernment. And that is a huge gift. That might be my most important spiritual gift, actually. But we have to watch out for the shadow attributes of the Judge. Offering only destructive criticism as a shadow aspect, and misusing business, legal, or criminal authority. So yeah, be careful. Be careful of misusing authority and too much criticism. Lean into, that balance of justice and compassion. That is a rich part of who you are, Lynn, and I love it that that's also one of your top archetypes. Anybody else who's watching, is the Judge a big one for you? In the Myers-Briggs, are you a J rather than a P? If so, it's likely that this one is a top archetype for you. Okay, it is 10 o'clock. I need to wrap this up. If anyone is watching the recording, feel free to comment so that I can continue this super interesting discussion with you even after this live stream has ended. I love to hear from you. If anyone wants my quiz, how mean is your inner critic? Let me know in the comment. Say quiz, please, and I will send you over the link. The Judge is actually one of those results that you could get for your inner critic. Okay, somebody just gave me a heart. I can't tell who it is, but thank you. All right, have a wonderful week, everyone. I don't know what my archetype will be next week, or even if I will talk about, I might not even talk about a particular archetype. I will feel into what I think people need to hear about next week. Maybe I will talk about the giver-receiver dynamic versus the doer-taker. That could be interesting. So we'll see what next Monday has in store. And everyone have a great week. Bye.